Hello.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Not bad, how are you?
I'm not too bad. All right, pal.
How we doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Tell us a bit about yourself. You know, what were you doing prior to the outbreak? Where were you?
All right. Well, my name's Craig Rytz. Before being back at home, I've most recently been a guest care manager in a hotel in Le Plan in France. Um, Before that, I was out in Norway and I work as a sea kayaking guide between April and September.
So I'm currently living in Waitomo in New Zealand, an area that's rich in caves. There's about 300 different cave systems in this area, and I was working in one of them for a company called Blackwater Rafting, a sport where you're in a wetsuit tubing through the caves to see the glowworms. Brings in a lot of tourism every year to this area. Yeah, it's great fun.
What was your first sort of thoughts when that virus sort of popped up?
It's definitely a concern. The way that we live nowadays with travelling everywhere, everybody travels. The likelihood of it staying in one place wasn't going to happen. So we definitely kept an eye on it.
So what kind of happened when you realised it was going to be bigger?
So it kind of kept getting mentioned more and more as we got into sort of early February, and then to late February, early March, you started to see the effects it was having in Europe. And then it looked very real at that point. And you'd heard about cases in ski resorts in certain areas. This was quite worrying. It definitely had an effect on business. There were people that were just not turning up for holidays. And then it hit.
So initially it was pretty chill, you know. We didn't really think that it was going to affect us that much. I mean, New Zealand's pretty good with dealing with health concerns and sort of controlling who comes in and out of the country. But it soon became apparent that obviously an industry, our company that relied so much on tourists, foreign tourists, that we were going to have some issues.
We'd had an email from the ski resort saying we're going to keep open, we're going to keep everything running as per normal until we hear otherwise. So the company I was working for had guests arrive on the 14th, seen into their hotels, seen into the resorts, started getting their ski equipment. And then that evening, Macron came on and said, right, that's it. Everywhere's shutting down. Wow. So the company was left with all these new arrivals suddenly with, well, some of them had nowhere to stay. Some hotels from in my friends' resorts were saying, no, we're not taking them tonight.
We obviously all started noticing that numbers were dropping. There wasn't enough work for 90 guides. It's quite a big operation. So, you know, the company itself could only make relevant decisions when decisions were being made at a sort of government level. And often that meant waiting a couple of days. And, you know, some people obviously became frustrated with no news. But, I mean, I sort of completely understood that it wasn't their fault and they needed time to make decisions based on their...
Obviously, you're still in New Zealand. You've not left the country, unlike quite a lot of other people. So what kind of process sort of happened for you there then? So obviously the work dried up, the work stopped. What happened? What happened next? What happened to you next?
So we were quite lucky. We were still going to receive the government subsidy until the end of our contract, which is in a couple of weeks. And I felt that for me, it was the best place to be. I didn't want to just go home. At least here, there was still opportunity. And like I said, I do feel like New Zealand will get on top of this quicker than most other places.
So you're now back in Wales. You're now back in the UK. We're obviously now under lockdown. How are you coping with it? How are you coping with the quarantines?
Well, I came back. I had a week under quarantine as such, and then I was quite fortunate as it goes. I managed to find a job. So I'd applied to the 3 local supermarkets. Each of them offered us work, but it was quick. It was really quick. I'd put my CV in on the Monday morning in Tesco, and then by the Monday afternoon even, I'd had a phone call asking if I could come for an interview. I actually ended up having an interview that day.
That's all right. How are you coping with the lockdown? Obviously, going out of summer, how are you coping with the lockdown? What are you doing?
At first, initially, I thought it was going to be quite hard. You know, being quite an active person, don't really like sitting around at home too much. But the first couple of weeks were quite difficult. I had the urge to sort of go out and do things still, but obviously wanted to respect and help New Zealand. So by week 3, kind of accepted that this was the reality, and you know, you soon find small little hobbies. You know, I was playing the ukulele, you know, trying to write some of my own little songs.
Obviously, we're not looking like we're going to be opening the borders anytime soon and being able to go back to our normal jobs. Do you reckon you'll still be working in the supermarket for the rest of the summer? Do you reckon you'll pass over into winter?
Fingers crossed not. I am quite optimistic, but I'm also realistic. So we've just recently been told, you know, there's another 3 weeks. There's about 2.5 weeks left now. Personally, I see that being 5.5 weeks. That's not from any real scientific knowledge there at all. That's just
guesstimate.
What? Yeah, that's it. Kind of looking at other countries where they're at and what I think we're at. There's just uncertainty. So I can't see. Best case scenario is we get a July and an August, the 2 biggest months. Fingers crossed. Realistically, I'm hoping for August and September. But you just don't know. You don't even know if there's going to be a winter season yet.
So what's your plans next then? 'Cause obviously, as you say, the government grant runs out in a few weeks. What do you reckon you'll be doing for your winter, our summer?
Yeah, so I'm currently looking at kiwi picking kiwis in Kiwi land. Not something that I ever thought I'd necessarily be doing. But it's in very high demand. It's an essential service over here. And like you say, our government grant, our contracts end in a couple of weeks. Rather than just sort of sitting here and resting on your laurels, you know, I think for me personally, it's more appropriate to go out and find at least something to do. And obviously it will be a help in some way, and earning a little bit of money along the way as well.
Well, thank you very much, Craig, for your time. Well, I'll leave you back to your day. Any plans for today, or?
Probably 10 minutes in the garden before heading out to the supermarket.
No, we are straight back into work. Busy chap. Well, thank you very much, Aidan. Thank you for taking the time out to speak to us about that. So. And good luck. I think, you know. Hopefully this doesn't last too long, and hopefully you can. Stop picking kiwis and get back skiing back onto the mountains.
All right, see you later, man.
I'll speak to you soon,
Cheers.
All right, bye.